My name is Isaya Kisekka. I'm an associate professor in the Department of Land and Water Resources and Department of Biological and Agriculture Engineering. The title of my talk is Sustainability of Irrigated Agriculture in California. Sustainable irrigated agriculture involves optimum use of water for crop production while addressing the core benefits for the environment and human health. A few quick facts on California's irrigated agriculture. California is the #1 state in the country in terms of agricultural value. For example, in 2019, farms and ranches in California had cash receipts of over $50 billion. The second state is Iowa, which is actually a distant second with cash receipts of approximately $27 billion. And here I list the top 8 commodities in the state in terms of cash receipts. Well, with dairy being #1, followed by almonds and then grapes. Why is agriculture in California very productive? #1, we have a very unique climate that ranges from Mediterranean climate in the Central Valley to coastal climates along the Central Coast to desert climates in the South. This allows us to grow crops that nobody else in the country can grow as well as we do. That's why some of these 90% or 99% grown in California. The second factor is we have a water delivery infrastructure that moves water across the state. It involves the Central Valley Project, which is a federal project, the State Water Project, as well as different local projects. As you can see here, the different projects are shown color-coded in different colors, but the idea is this infrastructure allows for storage and movement of water across the state. The third factor is very fertile soils in the Central Valley that are very good for agricultural production. This is a graph of water use. Agriculture is the #1 use of water in the state. Agricultural water use fluctuates around 35 million acre feet. It's gone down, it went down in the recent drought. The pink bars here show the different drought years. Blue is urban water use, which is less than 10 million acre feet, and the green here is the total water use. Here I show number of irrigated acres. Again, California is the most irrigated state in the country, with our number of irrigated acres has remained relatively stable, just over 9 million acres, but we had a significant decline during the drought, of course, when fields were fallowed due to lack of water. In terms of irrigation systems, the trend has been that in the 70s, the dominant irrigation method was gravity, but as technology improved and growers moved to different crops as well as different state and federal incentives to adopt some of these highly efficient systems, there's been a significant increase in drip irrigation. Sprinkler irrigation has remained relatively stable over time, and blue is other smaller types of systems. So what are the challenges facing irrigated agriculture in California? There are several, but I list a few here. And the first one is water scarcity, which is related to climate change in terms of droughts. And that tends to result into groundwater overdraft. But we also have water quality issues that growers have to deal with, soil salinity, and regulations. Other factors include air quality, ecosystem degradation, and competition of water from other users. But we'll spend some time talking about these bolded ones. So California's water is characterized by 2 extremes. You have floods on the one hand, and then you have multi-year droughts on the other hand. So the graphic here shows historical floods in blue and multi-year historical droughts on the bottom here in brown. And you may remember the most recent one from 2012 to 2015 it had the highest, the driest 4 consecutive years on record, which was followed by the second wettest year on record in 2016 that resulted into significant flooding and damage to property and agriculture operations. But these dry years also caused a lot of groundwater overdraft. So in 2014, the state of California passed the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, which basically requires that these groundwater basins are sustainably managed. You see here in the Central Valley, where you have the Turale Lake Basin, the San Joaquin River hydrologic region, and the Sacramento Basin, having a lot of basins that have been groundwater basins that have been categorized as critically overdrafted, which means they should have submitted their groundwater sustainability plans this year. Okay. So out of the 16 groundwater basins, 11 are classified as critically overdrafted. Another issue that irrigators have to deal with is water quality. Agriculture has been associated, as well as dairies, with increased nitrate concentrations in groundwater. This map shows concentration of nitrates in groundwater in the Central Valley, and the areas that shown in red exceed the maximum limit of 10 milligrams per liter. If you drink water that's very high in nitrates, it reduces oxygen in your blood and actually can be fatal for children. So the state regulates nitrate discharge to groundwater and surface water through the Irrigated Lands program in the Central Valley region. And the growers have to work within their coalitions to present information to the state that are actually complying with these discharge orders. So these increases compliance with regulation, increases the cost of production, but it's very important that the growers remain compliant. Another very big problem is salinity. This is a map again of California showing soil salinity in different ranges. The area that has the highest level of salinity is the west side of the San Joaquin Valley, and this is for various reasons. The soils in this area were originally formed from marine material that was high in salt, and so that the parent material is high in salt, so that predisposed this region to be susceptible to salinity. But the other problem is the water that is delivered for irrigation also carries a significant amount of salt. And also with adaptation of highly efficient irrigation systems, we are not doing as enough leaching as we should to drive salts out of the root zone. So these problems are compounding to increase the salinity in this part of the Central Valley. Salinity is regulated now by the State Water Resources Control Board under the Salt and Nitrate Management Program, which is going to be managing both salinity and nitrates over the Central Valley region. I put this slide in red because I think salinity is going to be a major problem to irrigated agriculture, because it can actually, this problem can completely shut down agricultural production if not well managed. In this picture, you see these white rings around the wetted volume of a dripper. This orchard was being irrigated with a double drip system. And the salt, you can see the salt buildup, which definitely killed the trees. The idea is to, whenever you irrigate with water that is high in salt, you have to do leaching to drive salts out of the root zone. But because of the constrained water supply, sometimes it's just not enough water to leach salts. And if you're in the region that receive very little rainfall, then there is also not the opportunity to leach salts by rainfall. There was a study done in 2009 that estimated losses of over $2 billion in terms of California value of goods and services by 2030. So this is a significant problem. There are stakeholders that have come together to address this problem through the CV Salts program that actually was involved in creating the salt and nitrogen management plan that was approved by the State Water Resources Control Board that will regulate discharge of salts. So how are the growers adapting? One is to increase groundwater recharge, and they're doing this through the FLOOD-MA framework, which involves integrating flood management with groundwater recharge, such that if you have excess water, either due to snow melt or forecasted rainfall, you can flood agricultural fields and other working landscapes to increase groundwater recharge. But you have to be careful when you do this in an agriculture setting, because you could impact agricultural productivity in terms of reducing disease or actually killing crops, especially in vines and perennial crops. But there's opportunities to do this very effectively in low cropping system or annual cropping systems, where land could be followed and used for aquifer recharge. And there has to be incentives to compensate for reduced productivity. Besides increasing the supply, another way to address this problem would be to reduce demand. And this is one area we have done a lot of work in. We have been looking at developing information on crop water use of young orchards. We worked with a grower that had 3 edges of orchards that allowed us to quantify water use of different edges of orchards at the same time. And I'll share a few of our results from this study. The red is the second leaf orchard, the green is the third leaf orchard, and the fourth is the fourth leaf almond orchard. And you can see there is a significant difference in water use between these different edges, especially between the second and the fourth leaf orchard. However, as the trees continue to grow, there's very little difference between, for example, the fourth and fifth leaf orchard, and you could manage these orchards the same. The y-axis here is actual evapotranspiration, and this is cumulative water use since full bloom. And all the data, we summarize all the data in terms of Kc versus the age of the orchard. Kc is a number that helps you to scale evaporative demand, which is summarized in something called a reference evapotranspiration to determine how much water you need to apply. Besides groundwater recharge and reducing demand, we also can look at alternative water supplies. And one that has been used in California for a long time is recycled water. But you have to be very careful with recycled water to minimize the negative potential impacts. And I've listed a few here: sodicity, salinity, and specific ion toxicity. In this image here, I show soil, and you can see clay particles here shown in terms of platelets. So if you use recycled water that tends to be high in sodium, it can cause these platelets to be dispersed, which we call clay dispersion. And when that happens, it breaks down the soil structure, reduces soil permeability or hydraulic conductivity and infiltration. Here are some of the data from the Montreal One Water and Pajalo Valley Water. These are 2 water agencies that distribute water to growers, recycled water to growers, and these are our predicted SAR and CROSS for the different water qualities. We have also established monitoring for nitrate leaching to understand how irrigation and management practices are impacting nitrate leaching in the deep vedal zone. Here, the black is in July after harvest of triticale, and red is nitrate in the 40-foot profile at planting of triticale, and you can see that there's a lot of nitrate removal up to about 4 meters. Beyond that, there's very little difference. Finally, adopting climate-smart agricultural practices like whole orchard recycling can improve soil health, water holding capacity, infiltration, as well as other practices like use of cover crops and crop rotation. These can all help. Again, thank you so much for your attention.